Okay, so everyone's talking about, right, that SpaceX Starship mission, the first crewed one, April 17th, it's just blowing up on X.
Uh-huh. It really is. Sending civilians, I mean, everyday people, into orbit. That feels like, well, a pretty big moment.
A massive leap, yeah. And for this deep dive, we wanted to look at the spirit behind it. We're using David McCullough's book, The Wright Brothers.
Which is interesting because Elon Musk himself recommended it, right? So there's a direct link there.
Exactly. So our mission, if you will, is to kind of understand this Starship flight by comparing it to how the Wright brothers got powered flight off the ground. We've looked at the mission details, the book itself, and that Musk connection.
And what really stands out, I think, is that shared drive. Just making something happen that seems, well, almost impossible.
All right.
McCullough really details that methodical approach the Wrights took. Starting from their bicycle
Yeah,
shop,
the bicycle shop.
systematically testing wing designs, control surfaces. That wing warping idea was genius. They faced setback after setback before Kitty Hawk in 1903.
And you see that with Starship, too, don't you? That iterative process, all those test flights, the failures, the learning.
Absolutely. It's the same pattern, that relentless experimentation.
People on X are even calling this crewed flight Flight 2.0. And, you kind of get why. It's about pushing past those huge technical walls.
And it's that persistence, fundamentally. The Wrights, they spent years working, facing so much public doubt.
Mm-hmm.
And SpaceX, similarly, has shown that same resilience, that commitment to getting reusable rockets working, now aiming for Mars.
So let's talk potential, because this could be huge. We're hearing about possibly slashing launch costs, maybe cutting them in half.
Yeah, that's the projection. And even talk maybe a bit further out, like 2030, of orbital trips costing around, what, $200,000?
Wow, that changes everything, doesn't it?
It could. I mean, think about the Wrights. Their invention basically birthed the modern aviation industry. What is it now, like $800 billion?
Right.
So the speculation is Starship could spark something similar for space. A $1 trillion space economy by 2040. Satellites, tourism, resource utilization.
But, okay, we have to address the other side, too. The environmental questions are definitely out there.
They are. You see the figures mentioned, hypothetically, like 5,000 tons of fuel per launch.
Wow.
And some estimates floating around on X suggesting, maybe a 1% rise in overall aerospace emissions if this scales up significantly. It's a concern.
It brings up that balancing act, right?
Wow.
Ambition versus sustainability.
Exactly. And history gives us a clue there. Early aviation eventually led to regulations as the impact grew.
So leaders today need to be thinking about that proactively. How do we manage this as civilian space travel actually becomes a thing?
It's the critical question for 2025, really.
And back to Musk, it's fascinating. He pointed to the Wright brothers. He specifically mentioned the lessons on innovation in there.
You can totally see the connection. That spirit of pushing boundaries, learning from failures. It seems very aligned with the SpaceX way of doing things. And this crewed flight, it really embodies his bigger vision, doesn't it? That multi-planetary future idea.
Yeah, you see the excitement on X, people are captured by it, but alongside that, you also see the critical discussion about doing it responsibly.
Right, it's both happening at once. Enthusiasm and caution.
Which echoes the Wright story, too, that drive to break barriers. So for anyone listening maybe interested in tech breakthroughs like we covered way back, or just big cultural shifts.
Yeah, like an EP55, perhaps.
Right. The Starship mission feels like one of those moments.
And looking at it through the lens of the Wright brothers, it just gives you that historical perspective. It shows how these, like, revolutionary jumps happen.
It's not overnight magic.
No. It's determined experimentation, challenging what people think is possible. Those lessons feel incredibly relevant right now watching this unfold.
So maybe the thought to leave everyone with as we wrap up this deep dive, how do those lessons from the Wright brothers era, that mix of radical innovation, but also the societal and eventually environmental consequences, how might that inform the debate we're having now about sustainable space exploration in 2025?
Yeah, how do we strike that balance? Pushing forward, reaching for the stars, literally, but doing it in a way that considers the long-term impact. That's the challenge.